The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.thebenjamindixonshow.com to register for our blog and join the Progressive Army.
Today is Tuesday, March 21st, 2023, also known as the possible indictment day of a former president. Former President Donald Trump has indicated that today would be the day that he is likely arrested, facing charges from the New York District Attorney's Office concerning the fallout, the implications of the hush money that he allegedly paid through his attorney, Michael Cohen, his then attorney, Michael Cohen, to porn star Stormy Daniels for an illicit affair that they allegedly had. Subsequently, during the 2020 election, or rather the 2016 election, Michael Cohen paid Stormy Daniels some $130,000 to keep the relationship between she and then candidate Donald Trump, keep it private. We have seen the fallout and the backlash of all of this over the years, and it has taken this long. It has taken this long to get to the point where the president could face charges for anything that he's done. I had a chance to speak with Matt, the letter hack, the artist who draws so many comic books for the left movement, the leftist movement. And we were speaking last night about how Donald Trump is almost like Teflon Don in terms of not having anything stick to him. And even with this particular case, what they are sticking to him is not really the worst that he has done as president of the United States. He's not being held accountable for January 6th. And in fact, he has called for his supporters to protest. I'll read a little bit from the New York Times and different outlets, including some of the tweets that are not tweets, but the Truth Social post that Donald Trump made, calling for his activists to protest over the weekend and coming into today, which is Tuesday. We will keep an eye out throughout the day to see if he is actually arrested. There have been some coordination efforts between his office and the New York District Attorney's Office, coordinating how it would look, whether or not he's coming in voluntarily, how he would be fingerprinted, all of these things. Now, again, I think this is a good day for the possibility of accountability for a former president. However, this is not the biggest thing that he should be held accountable for. It's almost like we have to take what we can get when it comes to someone as powerful as a former president and someone as powerful as a rich white conservative man in this country. Because we all know, had Barack Obama done anything nearly remotely close to what Donald Trump did while he was in office, Barack Obama would currently be in jail. So I think that there is a huge correlation between how much grace is given to Donald Trump, not only because he's a former president. We tend to, in this country, protect former presidents from prosecution. See George W. Bush, who destabilized the entire world for generations to come with his illegal war in Iraq. No one is going to hold him accountable. In fact, he's running around the world condemning Vladimir Putin's invasion of Ukraine. Okay, I guess game recognizes game. But at the end of the day, this country does not have the capacity or the political desire, has never had the political desire to hold a former president accountable for their crimes before or during office. And so this particular crime of, and if I'm not mistaken, it hinges on how Stormy Daniels was paid, from what pool of money she was paid to keep quiet. Campaign finances are allegedly used, and I'll give you more details about that. And that's where the illegality comes in at. But I mean, is he going to be held accountable for January 6th? Right? Is he going to be held accountable for the nuclear documents that were found at Mar-a-Lago? Is he going to be held accountable for any of the serious infractions, actions that he took as president of the United States that destabilized this country, fomenting and fostering an insurrection that is still going on? Now, this insurrection that is ongoing isn't so much directly tied to Donald Trump anymore. And we'll look If you saw any of the protesters who came out to support Donald Trump, they were few and far and in between. So Donald Trump's ability to move his support base, because many of them are facing legal charges still now from January 6th, according to the New York Times, some 1,000 people have been arrested and tried because of January 6th, and they are expecting another 1,000. Now, those numbers are starting to add up. You know, you had about 5,000 to 10,000 people out there, so 2,000. Now we're getting closer to the people from January 6th being held accountable. So they are squeamish and leery about going out to support Donald Trump. They feel like it's a Fed operation, that they're going to get arrested if they go out and protest. And so this shows you the conundrum that Donald Trump is in. He is now incapable of even moving his supporters into action, because the last time they moved into action on his behalf, we had January 6th. And so we have to see exactly how this plays out. I don't believe that Donald Trump can move a grassroots style movement ever again. However, those people are out there and waiting on the opportunity to be mobilized into action on behalf of someone who will carry their grievances back to the White House. Right? I want to be clear about what I'm saying here. Simply because Donald Trump, as a brand, is incapable of moving his supporters into action to, I guess, defend him from arrest later on today. He's incapable of doing that, but that doesn't mean those people aren't mobilized and ready to move into action on behalf of something and someone. We see them in action all around the country, attacking the LGBTQIA community, attacking Black lives. We see them ready to move into action. They're just not ready to move into action for Donald Trump. I mean, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on, doing my best George W. Bush impersonation. I want us to listen to this clip of Speaker of the House, Kevin McCarthy, as he tries to, weasel his way around telling people not to protest on behalf of Donald Trump while not infuriating Donald Trump. I mean, this is, if there's a weasel award in this country, it goes to this guy, Speaker of the House, Kevin McCarthy.
It doesn't matter what side of the issue you're on. It doesn't matter if this was President Trump or if this was a Democrat. It should be equal justice in America. And stop going after people because you have political differences. I don't think people should protest this, no. And I think President Trump, if you talk to him, he doesn't believe that either. I mean, I think the thing that you may misinterpret when President Trump talks, when someone says that they can protest, he would probably be referring to my tweet, educate people about what's going on. He's not talking in a harmful way, and nobody should.
He's saying, don't go and protest, tweet. That's what he's talking about. I want to read from the New York Times. Donald J. Trump's call over the weekend for his supporters to protest his expected indictment has divided his allies on the right, as some fear mass gatherings could devolve into violence and lead to the prosecution of his supporters, just as the January 6th riot at the Capitol did 2 years ago. While some Republicans have echoed Mr. Trump's call to take to the streets, other prominent voices on the right are urging caution and for people to stay away, particularly from New York, where they note that any potential unrest would invite prosecution from the same official who is expected to charge Mr. Trump, the Manhattan District Attorney Alvin L. Bragg. Quote, better to stay home, advised Jeffrey Clark, the former Justice Department official who was nearly named acting Attorney General by Mr. Trump in late 2020 as the president sought to overturn his election laws. Quote, think, rethink, and triple think before you physically go to protest anywhere in the Big Apple. The Republican Speaker of the House, Kevin McCarthy, who owes his post in part to Mr. Trump's support, was among those urging Trump supporters to stay away on Sunday. Quote, I don't think people should protest this. No, he said during a news conference in Florida, adding, quote, I think President Trump, if you talk to him, he doesn't believe that either. Well, that's not what I got from the Truth Social post. And perhaps he thought better of it since he posted it. But the fact of the matter is Donald Trump believes that he still is able to move the masses of people enough to protest his arrest and potential indictment. Now, the real question is, will this charge, will this arrest actually stick? Will he be found guilty? Does the Manhattan prosecuting attorney's office, do they have a ironclad case? And is it significant enough such that if he's found guilty, what's the penalty? Let's take a look at some of the charges. Again, I'm reading from the New York Times because this is an important day. A lot of people are going to celebrate when Donald Trump gets arrested. But I think that we should temper our expectation and our excitement based on the type of charges and not mistake the charges that are looming with the charges that are coming today. And the potential charge, according to the New York Times, is bookkeeping fraud. And here's their analysis. The New York Times has reported that the case may include a potential charge of falsifying bonus records under Article 175 of the New York Penal Law. A conviction for a felony version of bookkeeping fraud carries a sentence of up to 4 years. There you go. Insurrection really should be something that he gets the rest of his life for. But this particular charge carries up to 4 years of prison. I would put money on the fact that he's not going to serve 4 years. Not for this charge. Continuing with the New York Times, to prove that Mr. Trump committed that offense, prosecutors would seemingly need evidence showing that he had knowingly caused subordinates to make a false entry into his company's records with intent to defraud. For the action to be a felony rather than a misdemeanor, prosecutors would also need to show that Mr. Trump falsified the business records with the intention of committing, aiding, or concealing a second crime. Now, as it stands, it sounds like they have enough evidence for these charges. They would not, for the most part, they wouldn't bring charges against a rich white man, especially a former president, unless they had an ironclad case. Now, they'll bring charges against the rest of us with nothing but circumstantial evidence. But I digress. It's not about us. It's about the president right now. The question is can they make the charges stick? And will he serve any significant amount of time? Well, that all remains to be seen. But today is potentially indictment day. It's early in the morning so far. We'll keep our eye out and see if he is arrested. And if there actually is any accountability, even though on the scale of infractions by this president, I think this is low hanging fruit, but it's better than nothing. I want to follow up on a story that we referenced months ago when we first found out about it. The black Mississippi resident, Rasheem Carter, who turned up missing and now his remains have been found. Content warning, this next story involves graphic details of lynching. And this is a horrific story coming out of the state of Mississippi where so many cases of murder of black lives by police or by residents seem to be happening on a regular, ongoing, and consistent basis. I've had a chance to meet and work with some of the organizers in the state of Mississippi. We were working on specifically and recently the Jaheim McMillan story and getting the information out about that. And as I got a chance to meet and learn about what's happening in Mississippi, which I consider to be one of my home states. I've spent a significant amount of time growing up in Mississippi, but since I have left and looking back at what has become, it is a nightmare. The residents of Mississippi, black residents of Mississippi, are living in a nightmare, and such is the case with Rasheem Carter. I will be reaching out to the family of Rasheem Carter and attempting to connect with the mother and to have her on the show to speak and share her story. But this story is picking up steam all around the country. I do want to give a shout out to the organizer, Marquel Bridges, for connecting me with this family who they're going through some extremely difficult times, as you can imagine, because of the nightmare, the ongoing nightmare that black residents in Mississippi are facing. I'm reading from the independent.co.uk. Rasheem Carter was seen running for his life in a new trail camera image before his death. Now, again, content warning, trigger warning. This is graphic. The victim, Rasheem Carter, was found decapitated, and his body parts had been cut off. remains were found in two different locations. This is a young man who attempted to get help from a local sheriff, but they did not help him, and he was subsequently hunted down, murdered, and his body parts were found in two different locations. I want to read more details from the Independent as they describe a video of him, of Rasheem Carter, running for his life right before he died. Quote, Rasheem Carter ran into a wooded area on the day he was reported missing while holding what looked like a large branch, showed a new trail camera image. The 25-year-old black Mississippi resident had gone missing on the 2nd of October last year. Soon after, he said he was being chased by a group of white men in pickup trucks while they hurled racist abuse at him. Carter's remains were found in a wooded area south of Taylorsville a month later, while his family lawyer, citing an independent autopsy report, said Carter's head was severed from his body. His mother, Tiffany Carter, told Insider on Wednesday that the image was given to the family by investigators a week before his remains were found, and that it showed something was wrong and that her son was running for his life. Ms. Carter earlier said that he had sought help from the police and told her he was being chased. The Smith County Sheriff's Department take at the time was that there was, quote, no reason to believe foul play was involved. But on Tuesday, Smith County Sheriff Joel Houston said the possibility of murder had not been ruled out. I'm sorry, I have to pause. Are they thinking that perhaps his head came off in some other fashion than murder? That statement right there kind of just took me aback. I just want to finish reading a few more details. Mr. Houston told NBC News that the early assessment of, quote, no reason to believe foul play had come at a time when there was no evidence that pointed to homicide. You could see there were bruises on him, Ms. Carter told the outlet. When I see that picture, I know my son was somewhere struggling, somewhere running for his life, she said, reiterating that she feels he was being chased there. The picture shows something is not right, Ms. Carter said. Something transpired. So this is the level of absurdity. I've already given you enough details for you to get the horrific picture of what happens in Mississippi. Rasheem Carter reported that he was being chased and reported to police, to the sheriffs, that his life was in danger. They ignored him. A month later, his body is found. His remains are found in a field, and other parts of his body were found elsewhere. And despite going to authorities to try to get help to save his life, he was ignored. He was ignored and subsequently died in a horrific fashion. And even after his death, the immediate response from investigators, though his body was decapitated, was that they were not sure that it was actually murder involved. See, I've seen firsthand what Mississippi does when they want to help someone get away with murder. It's very similar to what the state of Florida does when it wants to help its residents get away with murder. All the way back to George Zimmerman, all the way to what's going on right now with the Broaddus family. DJ Dominique Broaddus, who was killed in North Florida, Jacksonville, Florida, near and around that area. And the murderer didn't get charged with murder because of stand your ground. The murderer got charged with obstruction of justice and served a year, right? So these states are extremely adept at getting their citizens off with murder, specifically when it involves a black life. The system helps white murderers get away with murder. And here's another family, yet another family who has to not only fight for justice for their loved one, but they have to fight against a system that is designed to help the murderers get away with murder. We see this happening all across the country, particularly in the South, particularly Republican states, specifically states that give you stand your ground doctrines as a way of justifying and getting away with murder. We'll certainly keep our eye on this story, and we'll continue to reach out to the Carter family to help get the word out.
Go to www.patreon.com/The BPD Show and get twice the content and unfiltered interviews without any of the commercial interruptions.
And here we go. Very special welcome to our newest patron, SYBSTAR. Thank you so much for becoming a patron. This entire patron party is for you. Come on, everybody. The show is simply not possible without our patrons. That's why we take a minute to celebrate. Wait a minute. Oh. You too can become a part of this prestigious and prodigious patron family by going to patreon.com/The BPD Show, where you get twice the content, none of the commercial interruptions, and you get access to our bi-weekly patron party. We are getting ready to have one soon. DJ X3C is back in the saddle, ready to go. Patreon.com/The BPD Show. And we'll be back right after this break.
Welcome back to the Benjamin Dixon Show. Visit us online at thebenjamindixonshow.com.
Welcome back. Proud Boys, who are organized all around the country. They are a gang, for lack of a better word. They are a crime syndicate that focuses on Western chauvinism, misogyny. This is what they specialize in. They specialize in forwarding the Make America Great Again movement. Fervent Donald Trump supporters. They were there on January 6th. They are prepared for the next insurrection. Before I even start and give you the headline, I just want you to realize who and what we're dealing with when we discuss groups like the Proud Boys, when we discuss the Boogaloo Boys, when we discuss the Oath Keepers, the 3%ers. These are all paramilitary styled groups that fashion themselves in the order of gangs. Even to the extent of, for the Proud Boys, that process a ritual process of jumping their supporters in and out of the group. So when we talk about them being organized, specifically organized to bring harm to our allies, to our comrades, to our neighbors, to our friends, and to family members. When we talk about what the Proud Boys are doing, always understand the conversation in the context of they have training manuals that they've disseminated to each member. They have rules that members have to abide by. Their rules are so strict that it dictates how often a young man can pleasure himself. Right? They have rules all the way down to how much an individual can masturbate. I share that information because I need you to understand that these clowns, while I say that they are clowns, they're very serious. They're very organized, and they are a threat to democracy, and they are certainly a threat to the LGBTQIA community. Proud Boys were arrested and bloodied over the weekend in their attempt to shut down yet another drag show. Now, I'm going to give you some of these details. I'll be reading some of the details from rawstory.com. They have coverage of this. Thanks to David for sending this to me. I want to also emphasize who's being targeted. The LGBTQIA community, they are being specifically targeted right now because, honestly, it's politically easier to get away with vilifying and attacking drag shows than almost any other group right now. Almost. You know, it is something when you can pick off bigoted people from all identities, all cultures, all background, all races. And this is what the Proud Boys, this is what the Nazis, this is what the fascists of today, they understand. They understand that because our society has not evolved enough to fully include the LGBTQIA community, because we as humans still live in our world of bigotry. We as humans still, You know, if we don't understand something or something makes us uncomfortable, then we get squeamish or we don't want to see it or we feel offended. We feel like we're attacked by it. All those things give room for groups like the Proud Boys to target and maliciously attack the LGBTQIA community. Why? Because they get so many people to co-sign on it from every other community. You know, you get black folks who co-sign on the bigotry towards the LGBTQI community because we're conservative and we're religious and all those things. But these are the same people who are trying to kill black folks, though, right? The same people who are bringing harm to the LGBTQIA community. They are the same people who were shooting up Mother Emanuel AME, the same people who shot up the Tops grocery store in Buffalo, New York, in a black neighborhood. The shooter went in there targeting black people. These are the same people that they're organizing together. They're reading the same manifestos. They're listening to the same right-wing podcasters and YouTubers. And they are coming after each group separately in our silos. Why? Because they know the real threat to fascism in this country is if all of us who are being attacked by fascism actually unify. All right, let me give you, I just wanted to start there because this is an ongoing conversation and a lot of folks don't seem to understand the fact that as you sit by and either say nothing about what's happening to the LGBTQIA community or you co-sign it. If you are a black person, a minority of any type, you need to understand that you are siding with the people who want to kill you. Oh, is that too harsh? That's too direct. They want to oppress you. Oh, maybe that's too systemic. They certainly think that you are a problem. Your blackness, your wokeness, your just skin color. Those are the same people who are shooting up the gay clubs, the gay nightclubs, the Q nightclub, Pulse nightclub. Those are the same people who are doing mass shootings. Okay, sorry, I got off on the tangent again because I really need us to understand what we're up against. Those same people, the Proud Boys, bloodied and jailed during a New York drag queen story hour protest. Clashes between Proud Boys and counter-protesters led to at least one arrest on Sunday. The indictment, or rather the incidents, occurred on 7th Avenue in New York at the Drag Queen Story Hour with Attorney General Letitia James event. Videos shared online show some protesters wearing gear and colors associated with the Proud Boys. Members of the far-right group were seen clashing with counter-protesters in the street. One video shows a man in Proud Boy colors being arrested. In another video, a group member appeared with blood on his face, saying, quote, "I came here to help, not to get the ish beat out of me," he says. Listen, shout out to the counter protesters. That's really one of the reasons I'm even covering this story. At the same time, I'm trying to actively mobilize and, energize and just really communicate to the rest of us the need for solidarity to stand up and fight back against fascism. I'm just excited because there are people who are already doing it. There are people who are already showing up at these shows, at these drag shows. They're showing up at whatever event that is being targeted by fascists, and they're counter-protesting in a very anti-fascist fashion. It's anti-fascism is good. Antifa is good. It is inherently good to fight against fascism. And I'm just so encouraged that there are so many hundreds of Americans. It doesn't take a lot. Eventually there will be thousands, but there are hundreds of Americans who show up in the streets to protest back, to counter protest, to stand toe to toe, face to face with the Proud Boys. Now, this group may not be organized as the Proud Boys, right? We are not at the stage where we have a response that matches the organization level of the fascists. But people are taking it upon themselves to get out into the streets and to defend people who are being targeted for no reason. Because if you really want to target the individuals who are grooming, if you really want to target the people who are molesting and harming our children, you don't find them at drag shows. There's not one single case of grooming, of molestation, of charges actually being brought against drag shows. But if you really want to take care of it, then go show up at all of these churches, all of these religious institutions that have had a history and ongoing present controversies around grooming, molestation, sexual abuse. Show up there, Proud Boys. But shout out to all of the counter protesters, Antifa, who show them what time it really is. Patrons, stay tuned. Everyone else, we'll see you tomorrow.